Okay, it's 7:03. I want to call the meeting to order. Thank all of you for attending on this beautiful night when we think we'd probably rather be outside enjoying the weather. I'd like to do a roll call of the commissioners. Joe, please say here when I call you. Joe Campanella.
Here.
All right. Stephen Sack.
Here.
Right. David Mello.
Present.
Very good. Max Dubuisson.
Here.
Right. And I see joining from the public is Christine Feely. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I sent around the minutes from our last meeting, the April 28th meeting. Could I get a motion to accept and approve those?
I know we accepted.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? No one opposed.
Hey Dave, would you mind muting your end? I think we're getting some echo from Bernie. Thanks.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, thank you, Max. That's helpful. First order of business. Chris Nelson, as you know, his last meeting was 2 meetings ago. We sort of memorialized him. He hasn't passed away, but he has spent, when you add it up, 1/3 of his life was serving on this commission. That's how long he was on this. Stephen Sack, you are a new commissioner, so welcome aboard. Stephen, if you don't mind, could you just take like 3 minutes and just say who you are and what you do and why you're here? What brought you to the commission? Or he might be getting a drink.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm having a little issue here.
Okay, I can come back to you if that's better. Stephen, I will come back to you when you're good to go. Just let me know. We'll go into sort of old business. We have a standing set of items that we check through. The energy plan draft, which has literally been years in the making. The first step towards approval is tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. The commission, before we go to the town council, we are going to go to a committee of the town council, which is the Public Works and Facilities Committee. I'm told that we'll have about 15 minutes. The committee itself consists of Ben Wenograd, who is the chair, Carol Blanks, and Mary Fay, who are on the town council. Typically Bob Palmer, who is facilities, and John Phillips, who is Public Works, will also be in attendance. I think Catherine will be there. And all of you are invited. If you don't, do all of you have an invite to that meeting?
I think I have one. I just haven't checked to see if I still have it or if I've tucked it away someplace. So it would be helpful to resend that.
Okay, I will do so.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Okay, I will, Bernie, to resend invitation. I will warn you, I think it's, I don't think it's going to be the most exciting thing that you've ever seen, but certainly if we have support, that would be that would be great. Okay. We previously talked about the public art connected with electric vehicle chargers. So far as I know, that is still on hold. It was initiated by Stephanie Bahramian, who lives in West Hartford but works in Bloomfield, and she was taking the lead on that and has run into a few problems. So nothing new to report on that. The climate emergency resolution, I got a report from Hendry and his students. They are citizens and students who are taking the lead on that. They did meet with the mayor and the town manager. They're going to work on it over the summer. Both the mayor and town manager were appreciative and supportive of the work. They will, when they get that done over the summer, they will report up through the Community Planning and Economic Development Committee, who will review it in the same way that the Public Works and Facilities Committee is going to review our plan. From the Community Planning and Economic Development Committee, it will go to the town council and hopefully be adopted. I did ask Hendry to share with us a report. So can folks read this okay? This is just a report from Hendry. I'm sorry. So it's basically, so they would have liked to have been here tonight, but they are all tied up. They have met with the mayor and town manager, and they gave us a path to adoption. I'm just reading this. They're going to take it to the Community Planning and Economic Development Committee in September. They have also given a presentation to the Conservation and Environment Committee. 2 of the 3 commissioners that were there were supportive. In their June meeting coming up, they will be discussing recommendations, endorsements of their draft. Interestingly, this is Hendry speaking. Interestingly, the endorsement for a national price on carbon in their resolution was very popular, but it's been a sticking point for some others. So just to say that there's mixed feelings on that carbon fee proposal, and they are reaching out to us and asking for a chance to get our thoughts. So I'll just read what they said. Looking for a chance to edit another draft of the resolution with you all, that's us. And they're asking us for a time when we're ready to meet to do that. So I'm thinking that what we'll do is have an offline meeting so that we can do editing and talking, and then bring it to the full committee, the public committee. Okay. Okay. Another standing item on the commission agenda is to improve our communications network, and that's Joe Campanella. It's no longer Chris Nelson and Mike Matthews. I don't think Mike is on this evening. We have made some progress on this. Last time around, Joe Campanella reported on his conversation with Renee McHugh. Sort of following on that, we did get our op-ed about the plan published in the patch, and then put from there onto the West Hartford page itself, the Facebook page. The Sustainable West Hartford Facebook page has been a little bit more active than normal. One of the consistent suggestions, and this goes back years, it actually started with David Mello, is that we take advantage of the West Hartford Community Interactive, or West Hartford TV. And in that spirit, I'm making a proposal, which we'll talk about in a minute, that we, the commission, start up a series. So think in terms of 1 session a month, or I think they give us 27 minutes. The first one, which we can talk about, is a biofuel script, which I sent to Stephen Sack. basically you can think of us fleshing that out and having a chat between us, and it might be filmed in the studio, or it might be on a Zoom session with the video link sent to West Hartford Community Interactive. Just to get your minds going, and I'm going to stop sharing here for a minute. Sorry. Some other ideas would be, I know this person just got a hot water heat pump, hot water heater. That would be a good session. I also know a person who has done if not a net zero retrofit, close to it, and so we might actually get 2 or 3 sessions out of that. But if you're aware of people who have done essentially extensive work that would be worthy of presenting to other West Hartford residents, we can work together on setting up a script and getting something on West Hartford Community Interactive. Any conversation on that?
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay. I was watching Home Shopping Net the other night, and somebody had a small thing, looked like the size of a dehumidifier, and what it was, in fact, was a heat pump, just a small heat pump, and they didn't use the word, they didn't explain it, but they thought it was pretty magical that it could heat and cool and dehumidify in a small package. So other people are taking advantage of these things, whatever they want to call them.
So David, do you remember, was the technology called Minotaur? Minotair?
No, I'm not.
Okay, but that would be an example. If we can find a West Hartford resident who has adopted something like that, that would be a perfect topic. I think we want to essentially look at what our residents are doing, or our local region is doing. If we think it's in the clean energy space, we'll try to make it accessible and informationally available to our community members.
So moving away from the videos, Bernie and I did have a 45-minute Zoom meeting with Renee McHugh, the public relations person for the town of West Hartford. And she gave us quite a few good ideas as far as connections that we can make to facilitate our communication with the community. So I would ask all the commissioners again to think about a pitch, or to write some copy, or anyone who is following the commission here, to come up with an idea for something that we can try to get into the local media. At the top of the food chain was Stephen Singer, who writes for the Current on Connecticut energy news. The local West Hartford writer is Don Stakem, and he'd be the one that we would try to pitch an idea to, and probably write something for him. Let him take that and kind of run with it, and hopefully get something published in the Current. There were 2 suggestions as far as publications that we might put some ideas in. One would be the Leisure Services yearly publications. I don't know if they go out twice a year, but we would probably have an opportunity to print something in there if we wanted to. The other was the Senior Citizens Center, which I think has a quarterly publication. Other ideas were um, passing along news feeds to people like John Phillips, who has quite a few followers, as well as the development director in West Hartford, Kristen Gorski, who has 4,000 to 5,000 business emails in the town of West Hartford. So she actually has more access to businesses than the Chamber of Commerce. It feels like, anyway. And I think she would want to help to promote anything that's going to help to save businesses money and in a way help to reduce, their energy costs. Other contacts would be Ronnie. Is it Ronnie Newman?
Ronnie Newton, yep.
Newton, who's with wehaw.com. So I think along with thinking of these videos, if there's just kind of a short message that you think we should get out to the community that would help drive the renewable energy, or the HES program or SBA program, I think we can begin to put those in a hat and try to develop them into stories and begin to pick and choose people that we can drop those off at and see if we can't get something running in the local papers and do a little bit, with social media.
Joe, that's a great summary. It was a great conversation. I have two suggestions. One, we have a new commissioner, so I don't know if it's going to be a story, but I think it could be a press release that we could announce, Stephen, that you're joining, and we could have a little blurb, let the public know that Chris has served. So it's not a great deal of news, but it does get the commission name out there and lets people know that stuff like this is happening. So,
well, Steve, you're a case study for PV for small businesses. So maybe there's a way to roll that introduction into, how what you do for a business and how you've found renewable energy and energy efficiency, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay. And the other one, Bernie?
Well, the other one
We talked about.
well, actually, so before we leave that one, Stephen, maybe over the weekend I'll start something, and maybe Max or Joe, you can work with Stephen and me, and we'll work on crafting something together. I want to sort of, if we don't assign it, it won't get done. So let's agree to do that. Okay.
Sure.
So a little press release announcing you, and then maybe even a bigger piece describing some of what you did and how you made your way onto the commission. So that might be two things.
Okay. Yeah. Talk about, coming to the meetings for a while, and that on my business side too, that we are involved in renewable fuels. That fits in well, that, I'm involved in one little aspect of that part.
Yeah, I think that would make an interesting story. And I'm going to share again, okay? And this is my idea, which I would take on, but every year, Energize Connecticut puts out participation by town in the residential efficiency programs and in the business programs. So I thought we could write an article that would feature this graph. This shows 11 years of West Hartford's participation in the program, and I'll just just very quickly say this graph, the blue bars are Hess Home Energy Solutions audits, and the scale is over to the left. That's the number of households who are participated in that year. The orange bar that's stacked above the blue bar is what's called Hess income eligible. So that's folks that are below a certain income threshold. You can see there's a lot of stories we could tell from this. That 2014 happened to be when we did Solarize, which also accentuated the importance of community outreach. The line graph that is displayed here, the yellow is the percent of households. So it's using this scale over here. It says a little more than 20% of West Hartford homes have taken advantage of this program, and we are actually a little bit below the rest of the state. The state is something like 22.6, and we are something like 21. So we're pretty close to the state. And not to belabor the point, but there's a companion that shows participation in the business efficiency programs. Sort of the most typical one is the Small Business Energy Advantage. That's the blue. Another popular one is Energy Opportunities, and that's something that allows people to buy new equipment. So you can see that's become more prevalent recently. In this case, the yellow bar again is the yellow line, I should say, is West Hartford. 28% of businesses have taken advantage of that, and we are above the state average by a little bit. So going back to Joe's sort of comments there, there could be a story there. Just West Hartford a little behind the state in residential adoption of these programs, and the business side a little bit ahead. But there's a story to tell there about what these programs are. It basically would be encouraging residents and businesses to adopt and participate in these programs, which they pay for in their electric bill.
Hey, Bernie, do you have any numbers, kind of like an average number of saying, savings versus cost for this? Just, if we want to put something together, it's got to be, my feeling is with the average homeowner, like, okay, why should I do this? Well, it cost me, $99 to do it. I got X amount of stuff out of it, and I've been able to reduce my energy costs. Why? And so looking at some, that this is going to, the incentive is going to be a financial incentive, but show it to them. I don't know if you have access to any of that data anywhere with it.
I do. That's an excellent point. It's $50 for a regular home energy solutions audit, and the estimated savings that go with that are $1,000 over that. So it's kind of a no-brainer. On the income eligible side, it's free to the homeowner, and so the savings are probably even greater.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bernie.
Go for it, Max.
I was going to say, even further than that, I've had it done twice in my house, and they're here for 3 or 4 hours. So even then, if you just take that $100 and put it as like somebody's going to come try and fix leaks in your home for 4 hours, and they're going to change light bulbs and air seal, and it's only $100, like the cost per hour is just ridiculously low too.
Max, do you, since you've had this done to your house, do you think you're able to put some numbers down of what it costs for heating and air and cooling before and afterwards to show?
Well, the hard part there is that after the first one, we put in a ductless heat pump, and then later we put in a second one. So I've been changing my energy mix a lot over time. So my utility bills are kind of hard to figure out in terms of changes. We used the gas furnace a fraction of what we used it for when we bought the house. And I can tell through taking temperatures in rooms, the difference that the air sealing made. The first time made a huge difference. The second time was a much smaller difference.
Yeah, but if you took your total cost of energy before and afterwards and don't pick it apart between your gas bill and your electric bill, just put the whole thing together, would that do it?
It might. It might. I sat down to try and like adjust it all for heating degree days, and I got so confused that I gave up.
I can help you get some degree days for 1 year versus another and divide it out over degree days and, maybe come up, because to me, that's the best incentive to somebody says, well, you get $99. Okay, I got to spend money to do this. Well, it put back in average homes, $400 a year in savings, 800, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
Some true hardcore numbers would really get people motivated, I think.
Yeah.
Bernie, if I could jump in here just briefly, a family member of mine, my husband's, just had this done recently, and this is one of the things we might showcase in a video in a program. So along with the energy audit, that makes you eligible for a certain amount of rebates for insulation. So this family member got $12,000 worth of insulation free, literally free. Ceiling, I mean, the attic, the ceiling of the garage, because it was, there's a room over it, walls, the whole, and then some more insulation where the basement wall meets the house walls, because that tends to be leaky and whatnot. And the change in comfort and the change in heat requirement was, well, it was profound for the room over the garage, which was always cold. So used to have that, and so whatever you might be spending to heat that, which wasn't really heating it, it just that was immediate. The other thing that was noticeable was that you can turn the heat down at night earlier, because the house stays at the daytime temperature longer, or takes much farther to fall. Now that I don't know exactly how you can quantify that. In this case, there was also switching out the 1950s furnace for a high efficiency gas. So again, that part is hard to quantify. But I think the fact that you can get rebates to cover whatever you're putting in for insulation. That's basically how it works. You put in the amount of insulation that you have qualifying rebates for, and it affects the comfort and the need for you to be heating those cold walls, for instance, that previously didn't have any insulation. So I think I don't know that anybody has any real numbers for that. But there are financial benefits, in terms of getting the insulation for nothing.
Mhm.
Well, Max, would you be willing to take a shot at drafting? It has to be pithy, readable, financially relevant. No challenge there, but it would be. I think this would be a great thing, following on what Joe was saying, to get something like this in front of WEHA or potentially even the Hartford Current.
Yeah, I can take a stab. I mean, I think Christine's comment about the rebates, that was one of the main reasons we did it both times. The first time was to get $1,000 off of that first heat pump. And then the second time we got more than that off of doing some insulation. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
This is great discussion. I'm going to go back to the agenda real quick. So I think we added a couple ideas to this to this thing that Joe talked about. Sort of the next standing agenda item is the town energy page. I think we have a beautiful town website. But the clean energy page, I think, is very dated, not as relevant as it should be. When we actually had a community volunteer, I think a fellow named Weston Williams, I don't know if he's on, but he started to look at it with Catherine. So I think either she or he will make a couple recommendations on that. So we're making headway on that. This heat pump, and I'm going on to the next agenda item that we had been talking about, heat pump and efficiency program. That was it. I'll just quickly. I think if we're going to do this, and I've done this, and I'm working on this in 3 towns right now, which are Brantford, Middletown, and Guilford. But we kind of have to get the town on board, so that's a town letter of intent. We have to select some partners. I have a list of 10 S auditors. We would get an air source heat pump and a ground source heat pump partner. We'd have to assemble a West Hartford volunteer team, just as we did with Solarize. My group can put up a West Hartford website. We have to get our partners on board. We have to get everybody signed with memorandums of understanding, and then get the mayor and get some publicity going. So this takes a while to get something like this going, but I think, but I want to say I'm pretty confident that we could get something going by September. I don't want to launch it in the middle of the summer, and it will take a fair amount of time to work on it. But just to let you know that that's going on. And Max and Joe, I'm hoping that you're still on board. We don't have anybody from Sierra Club, so I'll just skip over that. I'm sorry. James Capella's got an electric car event coming up in June. I have to get after him to get us a flyer. I think he's going to work with Mitchell Automotive Group, and it will be in the West Hartford Town Hall parking lot. Sustainable CT, Steve Sack, I think you went to the sustainability group last night.
Yes, yeah, I listened in.
Okay, anything to report there? I think up until they get this August application in, I'll stop sharing now. I think they're going to focus on getting that application in. That's their main reason for doing this. Any takeaways for us that you heard mentioned, or could you give us a sense of what that meeting was about?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to be a introduction meeting into a temporary advisory group to, I think the objective was from the group to pick out what topics they may want to do to get points for the sustainability program to get a higher level. Julie Farber was there that used to come to our meetings, a few other people. I think it seems they're not going to be writing it per se or anything, but just really, I think, trying to give some advice or guidance as to what other topics, items to pick to go after. So they've got to get this thing done really quickly, I think, by August. So, so they got to get cranking on picking out which topics they want to do. Catherine did a great job. She asked everybody kind of what their big thing they want to hit. A lot of people wanted to deal with homelessness in West Hartford. I don't really know how big of a problem that is. I think they were kind of referring to the panhandling issue. But if you listen to the town council, most of them are not really homeless. But that was a big topic. So I think they'll kind of maybe focus in on the next meeting as to, okay, here's 10 pieces or 15 pieces, and kind of pick and choose as to what they're going to focus in on and try and tackle. Bernie, I think you're on mute.
Over 20 people there?
Yeah, I think there was a good chunk of people. Yeah, I think there was probably somewhere around 20 people.
Great. And we had did you get the mayor and the town manager both?
I saw the mayor and probably the town manager earlier. Yeah, they didn't participate at all, but they were there listening and watching in.
Great. Yeah. So we're on. We, the commission, are on as, and Stephen, you were that representative last night, and we're a fair chunk of the points will come from our group, but by no means all of the points. So we will have a role to play. I'm sure Catherine will give us some orders, and we will follow them as we always do.
Yeah, they had one of the people from the sustainability group for probably the first hour talking about the program. So, and there seemed to be one or two people that were very intimate with that whole program. So they got a couple people in there I think really know about it intimately versus coming in blindly. Yeah.
This is the Sustainable CT is patterned after Sustainable Jersey, which has been at work for well over a decade. It's become a real force in Connecticut. I think probably you're referring to Alyssa Norwood, I think was the sustainability rep. And she is a town, she counsels towns on how to participate. So we'll have help along the way. Great. And Stephen, it sounds like you got your situation straightened out. So we'll double back. I think we all collectively want to say welcome to you, and maybe if you want to give us a few sentences on who you are and what brought you here.
Sure. I want to thank you for recommending me to be on the committee here. Stephen Sack. I live here in West Hartford. My company's headquarters are right here in West Hartford. So it's nice that I live and work here in town. I am in the fuel business, the energy business, and I have really adopted into the biodiesel world and renewable fuels for greenhouse gas emissions reductions. We've been tinkering and playing and selling with it for about 15 to 20 years now, and have really gone gung-ho with it in the last 7 years. We distribute biofuel, a lot of biofuel that's actually made here in Connecticut throughout southern New England. So I've got some knowledge on some of the renewable stuff. I get involved, been on the political side also, testifying on some energy bills through our group for the fuel oil dealers in Connecticut, our Connecticut Energy Markets Association, and just whatever knowledge I have on certain stuff, able to present it and help with the committee. And I really appreciate you letting me on board here.
Great. Thanks a lot, Stephen. That's great. I think we have really two agenda items, and they're both left over from last meeting. That last time around, Joe, you had suggested that we talk about the high cost of energy in Connecticut, and I think what triggered that comment by you was this current article. I think it was written by Stephen Singer, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't think we're going to change any of these things, but it is worth saying, I think in the continental US, Connecticut has the highest kilowatt rate per kilowatt hour of any state. We're like a fraction ahead of Massachusetts, and nobody wants to be ahead in this race. So this is the link to the article. It is an informative article, so I recommend it if you haven't had a chance to read it. But I just pulled off the chapter, the paragraph headings, and the things that he was pointing at as cold winters that were sort of at the end of the line. He pointed a finger at zero carbon power. I'm not here to argue with him, but that's just reporting what he said. Our utilities get something like a 9 or 10% return on any investment they make in transmission, which is higher than normal in other states. Natural gas is constrained, and when it is constrained and we are running electric power plants and heating our homes with natural gas, the way the markets work, as we all learned in Economics 101, is supply doesn't keep up with demand, the price goes up and arbitrates between those two things. So that produces winter price spikes. Connecticut has been leading the charge, doing its own thing, even sort of on top of ISO New England. And in some cases, the argument is that we're paying double for some things. I think that may be coming to an end. Again, he singled out the same thing that funds that Hess audit and the same thing that got Christine Feely's family member a $12,000 rebate on insulation. That's baked into our electric bills, so that's part of the reason. And finally, we, Connecticut, have single-handedly kept Millstone nuclear power plant running. Arguably, that New England would not be in good shape had we let that go by the board. And so I'm just reciting what was in that article. Joe, I think you were just pointing it out. If you have, does Joe or any other commissioner or person have any other thoughts on this? No. I'm going to take.
And I've got, as Bernie, as you know, we both have been to a lot of these meetings with the clean power. The more clean power comes in, it's going to cost more. Why did they build coal fire power plants and natural gas fire power plants versus put up windmills? Because it was a lot cheaper to produce electricity. So I think with the clean power, you're going to see prices going up. What I was shocked about, because we do some electricity sales also, I know there's a big uproar between Katie Dykes and ISO New England. She wants to get that disbanded. I don't know the intricate details on that, but New York, we were quoting electricity for New York for an account in New York, and it was like 4 cents a kilowatt versus 9 in Connecticut. And I'm sure Bernie, you see that here and there, doing stuff. But I think, if you looked at the IRP that Deep put out, they're, quoting anywhere from about $3.5 to $5.5 billion in cost to put in the new renewable electricity generation. But that doesn't include, they seem to have left out the cost to redo the grid system that has to be done. And that's going to be, I don't know what those numbers are going to look like, but yeah, our electricity is high, and it's just going to keep getting higher for a long time.
Yeah,
I think it's it's unfortunate that, I don't know, Bernie, if you could put that link actually in the chat or something so I could click on it. I started trying to type it out, but it's too long.
it's a Hartford Current. Let me see if I can get it. Bear with me here, Max.
There's just so many variables. Seems unfortunate to pin it on one, and it's, globally, renewables are now the cheapest source of power. So that's not going to be the main source of problems for Connecticut. Offshore wind obviously is a more expensive thing, but generally speaking, we're moving towards renewables being the cheapest option.
Yeah,
So we've got so many systemic issues that are much bigger than that with the way our utility systems are designed.
and I think for a commission like ours, I think if we can be intelligent participants, it doesn't even necessarily mean that we have to agree, but as long as we can participate in a way that sheds a little bit more light than heat, that's, I think, the only thing we can do. We're not going to solve these issues from our vantage point. I do think historically what Stephen said is true. The cost of the renewables has been high. I think they have been coming down over time, and I think in some cases have crossed over on a levelized cost of power. It's just something I think we have to pay attention to.
Hey, Bernie, do we have any thoughts about the trash to energy plant in Hartford closing up? I'm just wondering, is that something we should be? Is that something we should be pushing to get that thing to stay open some way, or is it closing down the best choice and hauling all the garbage out of state?
I'll answer you narrowly and then broadly. From an energy standpoint, whatever 10, 20 megawatts, whatever they produce, it doesn't matter to the energy mix. And I don't even really think that was your question. The real question gets to be how do we dispose of municipal solid waste? And it's a long-standing practice. If Chris Nelson was on the still here, I think since 1990, incineration for the purpose of volumetric reduction of municipal solid waste has been Connecticut's policy, and that's because we're a little state that makes a lot of garbage. And so if we don't reduce its volume, we're just going to be awash in garbage. When that plant goes down, I think it will go down. I think something like 70 Connecticut towns, not our town, not West Hartford yet, will be forced to ship their garbage somewhere. I say West Hartford's not directly affected because our trash to energy is in Bristol. It's a Covanta plant, and that's going to stay open. It's I've been to it. It's a well-run plant, but I do expect when Covanta sees that there's 70 towns who are all bidding for their capacity, the price that they charge West Hartford will go up as well. So I think we're looking at a rough future.
Also, environmentally, the trade-off of the emissions from the plant to create electricity versus, I looked at the amount of weight they're bringing. We're talking about 50 or 60 trailer loads of garbage being hauled out every day out of there to go out of state and run, several hundred miles a day, and then putting everything in a landfill somewhere. Where is it environmentally? I don't know this stuff well enough on that environmentally. Where's your trade-off? Are you better off keeping the plant going or shipping it out of state on an environmentally, not an economical view?
Yeah, that's a really tough one to answer because it depends on whether you just focus on the greenhouse gases or worry about other stuff too. So with the trash to energy, the greenhouse gas part is not too bad, right? Because it's just going straight to CO2 rather than potentially a landfill, which could be methane, except if it's a big landfill, they're going to have to capture the methane anyway. But then the criteria pollutants from it are pretty awful. But then the transportation, you've obviously got a lot of CO2 coming out of it. So that one's not obvious without sitting down and actually figuring out exactly where it's going.
But unencumbered by any math, I think I much prefer to handle it here. Because I think, the transportation costs of that enormous amount of mass and weight going hundreds of miles, Pennsylvania or Ohio, either by train or by truck, that's lots of pollutants of all sorts coming out of that. Even though they will have to capture the methane from a landfilling process, they won't capture all of it. I don't care how good they are, they're not going to capture all of it. And as everybody knows, that's a global warming potential somewhere between 25 and 100 times worse than CO2. So I much prefer to deal with it here.
But is there any option of keeping that Covanta plant open? My understanding was that they said they needed new turbines and then it just wasn't economically feasible to replace them.
I think there is no. there are people, I don't know, but I've been told that no, it would be expensive to keep open. And politically, the people of Hartford, our capital city, are going to say, we've had this thing for half a century in our town, go put it somewhere else. So I think we have a financial problem to pay for the new incinerators. And I think we have a political problem as well. So I could be wrong. I don't think we're going to keep it open.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the state's not going to put up money. You know, they requested $330 million and the state said no, which I think is just outrageous. You know, unfortunately, it's been a quasi-public agency that the state has put people in there to run the place who have no idea what they're doing, and they buried it financially. You know, I don't think they ever looked at outsourcing it and giving it to a private business to run. You know, why does Covanta make money and everybody else make money except for the one the state owns? You know, I think there are other options, but you know, as a group here, is it something we look at and use our powers to get our local representatives to step up to these issues that are going to cause problems, because it's going to cost West Hartford, even though we're at Covanta, as you know, it's going to cost us a ton of money extra. The tipping fees are going to go flying up everywhere.
Yeah,
Spread out everything they can, but yeah, I mean, we're looking at, you know, I run trucks, I own a trucking business. I mean, you're looking at 50, 60 trailer loads a day running all the way out to Pennsylvania at a cost of probably almost $1,000 a day per truck.
Yeah. It's not,
Maybe we could put that as a new business, Bernie. I don't see it on the agenda. I'd like to stick to the agenda if you don't.
very good.
Yeah.
Okay, the last point is something that, well, I've got one informational item here, which let me just share, and then I think we're going to talk a little bit about, Stephen, you want to talk about transportation and climate initiative. I wanted to just say that there is another piece of we do have very high kilowatt hour rates in Connecticut, but we have relatively low use. And so if you look at total energy, and this is not just electricity, so this is electricity.
Can you make that bigger, Bernie?
Yeah, could you zoom in a little?
I will try to do so, yes. I will play from current slide. Is that any better?
Yes.
Okay. Only small point I want to make with this hard to see graph is that while we have the highest rates, we do not have the highest energy spend per capita. I think we are something like number 25. So and that is because of all our efficiency programs, and because we don't have a lot of energy intensive businesses here, we use less energy per capita. So the total impact on the business and the total impact on the residents is the multiplication of the rate times the use. So you can attack that problem by getting the rate down, or you can attack that problem by getting the use down. So I just wanted to make that point. I think these are 19.
That's really interesting. There's a sort of similar point that I've seen made in graphs of California's energy costs over time, where you can see the like cost per kilowatt hour going up over the last 20 years, and this metric, the expenditures per capita, being flat over the same period. And it's big for the same reasons, efficiency measures.
I don't think I've got I had to cut this to make it fit on a slide, otherwise you'd all have eye strain. So I guess California must be below Rhode Island, unless I'm missing it. Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about TCI. TCI is an initiative, a regional initiative. I think it's multi-states. It's New England and Maryland and Washington, or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the states are. It's in front of our legislature now. It's a cap and trade initiative where they would say you can't produce more than a certain amount of greenhouse gas emissions without paying to produce it. And the idea being if you start inflicting pain on people when they exceed the cap, then that will encourage them to reduce it. And the monies that you collect will be turned back into various projects, whether they be roads or electrification or things like that. And I think I'm going to guess that we're all somewhat familiar with TCI, yes? I think.
Yes.
So, Stephen, I think you had expressed you wanted to talk about it a little bit, so fire away.
Okay, so yeah, right now, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Mass, and I think DC are the ones who have kind of signed a letter of understanding just to potentially get into it. There's some serious issues with this thing that I've kind of found with this thing, and one of the things that bothered me is reading this thing and going, okay, how is it going to reduce the emissions? You know, you're going to put this, you know, what it is that the wholesaler at the rack level for gasoline and diesel fuel has to buy these offsetting credits to sell the fuel. So they've got to buy these, you know, maybe a carbon credit or whatever. And they says, well, it's going to reduce the cost for everything. And I've always like, well, how is it going to reduce the emissions? Well, in a nutshell, if the state of Connecticut uses, let's say, 10 million gallons of fuel a month, and one credit is 1 million gallons, you know, we need 10 credits to be able to buy on the wholesale level. Well, they're only going to offer us 9. And so that is how they're going to, the program is set to reduce emissions is by not allowing you to buy fuel. And every year it's going to get reduced and reduced and reduced.
So that's, I'll interrupt you. I think we'll be able to buy all the fuel we want, but as we exceed the emissions cap, we're going to have to pay more. So if we exceed it if we don't exceed it, I don't think there'll be a charge. If we exceed it by a lot, the charge will go up. But I think you'll still be able to buy gas, I think, and oil and diesel and so forth.
Well, it's just diesel fuel and gasoline, but no, you have to buy the credits in order to sell the fuel in Connecticut and in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. You're not going to be allowed to exceed it and pay a penalty. They have a caveat to bump it up 10% if they see that there's a shortfall, but only 10% off of what is given. And if you run the numbers from 2019 consumption versus 2023 or 22 when they wanted, or 23, I think when they want it to go into effect, there's already a 17% deficiency in the amount of credits that you can purchase that are available to buy versus consumption. So that's what they want to do. And basically, they want you to force you into buying an electric car, take your bike, whatever it is. But what that's going to do is cause artificial shortages certain times of the year when you're out of credits, you're not going to be able to get any fuel.
I'll just say I definitely want to double check that because.
Okay. Yeah. No, I looked because I think it was Tufts did a report on this, and it's all in there. I can send you everything with it.
And I can check with my sources as well because that would be a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I supply fuel to AMR ambulances all over Connecticut. I don't know what to tell them if all of a sudden we've lost. I can't bring them fuel.
Okay.
I don't want to tell my guys at AMR that sorry, no more fuel for the ambulances. Have have them, walk them to the hospital. Municipal vehicles, plow trucks, fire trucks. That's the way this whole system is set up. Now they talk about having only, a small, 5 cent per. It's only going to cost about 5 cents, and the wholesalers will absorb it. Well, the wholesalers are making less than a penny a gallon. It's just going to get passed on. And there's two issues with that part, is that they're going to have an open auction platform, I think, like, a minimum and a maximum. And so let's say they have an auction for the year's worth. I don't know how if they're going to do it by month or by year, but they have an auction, and let's say they start off at $2, and Shell says, okay, I'll bid $2, and Valero says, I'll bid $3. Sunoco says, we'll bid $3.50. Then you could get a capitalist like me coming in and say, hey, I bid $26, I'll take them all. And then I say to these
Do they
other,
have safeguards? I mean,
no,
these states are not new to cap and trade, right? Reggie's been operating since 2009, and every cap and trade program in the U.S. has specific rules around, positions, certain, size and fraction and banking and market power.
no.
So I would be shocked if they just sort of blindly threw it out there in a way that you can't get fuel and one person could buy all the allowances.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, and that's what I've read and I thought about, and I think it's Tufts did a study on this thing, and they've come up with the same conclusion. So I could come in, buy them all, and say, okay, Shell, you want to sell gasoline? $80 a credit, and now that 5 cents cost you, cost the consumer now 80 cents a gallon for this. On the flip side, you could have a very wealthy environmentalist come in and buy them all and not sell them, and we don't have any fuel.
Again, I'm like
I'll send you the
absolutely
link.
shocked if anybody on either side of any aisle signed on to any program like that. It wouldn't make a lick of sense.
I know it doesn't, but that's the way it's set up. Those who have position holders in terminals, which I am one of them, I can do this. I can go out and do it.
I'll tell you, I'm where Max is. Why don't we all send out the Tufts report?
Yeah. Yep.
We'll do some fact checking, and I think the legislature is ending on June 9th if they stick to their schedule. So
yep.
If it is as you say, I think they've got some splaining to do, but I'm kind of where Max is, I think.
Yeah. And then New York is not participating. So if we do run out of credits and don't have any fuel or don't want to pay the fee, we can import the product from New York and avoid paying that.
Well, that does sound possible.
Yep, because it's assessed at the terminal level in the state. So New York is not signed on to this. So there's no way to pay that fee when you bring it in from out of state and that doesn't participate into here.
It's at the wholesale level that is, yep.
Yep, in the state.
Stephen, one question for you as a bioheat person. If I have a gallon of 80-20, say
Yep.
bioheat, and a gallon of just regular fossil diesel, do I have to pay less? Do they give you credit for the bioheat piece of it?
So if it's number 2 fuel oil going into the house, this does not this has no effect on it. It's only on on-road diesel fuel, and it's only on the carbon fuel itself. So yes, if you were to buy a B20 diesel fuel with 20% biodiesel, 80% diesel fuel, that carbon fee would only be on the diesel portion, not on the bio portion.
All right. So that's, I went looking because I thought you would bring that point up, but I couldn't find it answered conclusively anyway.
Yeah. So that is one nice part where, okay, you now have a decent financial incentive to blend higher blends of diesel fuel for on-road vehicles.
Good. So Stephen, I have a couple things. I think there's a cap that we can't exceed, and as opposed to a financial penalty if we exceed it. So that's something to check. And can all the credits be captured either by George Soros or Vladimir Putin or anybody in between?
Yeah.
And what about the cross-border potential? Well, we have, instead of bootleggers, we're going to have diesel fuel smugglers from Albany. And you answered my B20 question.
Yeah, 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 because New York is not signed on. Only Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Mass are signed on for New England.
Right. Great. All these points are definitely something that we want to wrestle to the ground, and I'll do some research and we'll circulate it via email.
Yeah, and a lot of this is right on the TCI's website.
So there are price ceilings, there are cost containment reserves, there are multi-year compliance periods, there's interim compliance and banking allowed. So
But
there are
you're also
a
allowed to
number of, valves here.
But you're also allowed to trade it between people outside of the mechanism. So, and it reads on there, if I bought too much, I could sell my excess to somebody else. But you're outside of the matrix, so you could charge whatever you wanted to.
There's a difference between buying too much and buying at all.
Sure.
So there will be provisions to limit market power of an individual.
There isn't now in it, though.
Great. Okay.
I have a question for Steve. Yeah, Steve, this is Dave.
Yes.
Are you considered a competitor to the regular oil business? Because you're selling a product that in a way competes with it. You're part of the fuel oil business, but are you a competitor or a partner?
No, I'm part of it. So I'm on the wholesale level. So I sell these products to the guys that go house to house. And frankly, our whole industry has taken a huge push to get up to a B50 blend on the heating oil side. In the next 10 years to push up the blend levels up to a B50.
So the industry, oil industry generally, it should want you to succeed, should be helpful in meeting your needs, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, we're all working together to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and the biodiesel is kind of our answer for now. So no, I'm not. I am a friend. I'm in the business. We're all doing the same thing.
Good.
Are you talking about is Shell, the big refineries, upset with us?
That's what I wanted. Yeah, that's what I wanted.
No, they know we have to do this, and frankly, they know it. They're part of helping us a little bit, maybe not as quickly as some others are, but there's a thing called biodiesel, and then there's another product called renewable diesel. All comes from the same feedstocks, although renewable diesel is a little bit better because it has more of the characteristics of your regular diesel fuel and heating oil, but it's made in a typical refinery. So if the refinery is no longer needed to take in crude oil and make fossil fuel, you can make renewable diesel with it, which they do now. Except for we get screwed over here by California because they pay a fortune for carbon credits on renewable diesel in California by about $2 a gallon. So it's all getting shifted that way.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So how about we pause this conversation? We'll do some fact checking.
Sure. Do you want me to send you, Bernie, the info?
Yeah, absolutely. Send it.
Okay.
You can either send it to me and I'll send it around. I did send everybody the link to the 8 o'clock meeting tomorrow. Just now, it should be there. And I think that this is a good topic, if you're right, we got some work to do, and if Max and I are right, then we can talk it through. And we'll put the idea of the trash to energy and what we can do about it locally. It's always been in between. Since it's municipal solid waste, it really belongs conservation and environment because it has an energy component. It has a little bit of a footprint with the Clean Energy Commission, but at this point, I'm not going to argue jurisdiction. I think if there's anything we can come up with to alleviate some of the problem, I think we should do it. So we'll put that on the next agenda per Joe's suggestion. All right.
Could we get Chris, you think, involved? Who
Nelson?
Yeah, he knows a lot. I don't know how he can participate, if he can or not, because of his job. But I just see it as a problem. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know which is the right way to go. But
Bernie, am I mistaken, or did John Phillips go over this with his presentation?
He definitely talked about it.
Right. And his bottom line was that they weren't going to, at least from what I can remember, was that they weren't going to do anything to rebuild or upgrade that plant.
Correct.
And that we were safe for a while, and our push should be to reduce our waste weight by 30%.
No,
and get,
exactly.
And get food waste out of it. And that's kind of the push that he's, I think, behind in promoting.
Yeah, I think that's exactly, Joe. I think that's the stuff that's within, I don't know if it's within our control, but it's at least something arguably that is in our town we can have some influence over. But I think that plant is going to be shut down. So that is what John said. So the question is, how do we get that 30% waste reduction? How do we get that waste stream to go down?
is that residential or commercial or both, Joe?
Well, I think the town, doesn't pay for the commercial part of West Hartford businesses. They pay for their own, and they pay, for residential. It's part of our taxes. So I think that's what it's looking at.
But does the private, the commercial garbage go to the Covanta plant?
I don't know. I can't answer any of your questions. My point was that John Phillips did talk to the commission about this recently. I don't know, 2 months ago.
No, last meeting.
Last meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a big problem coming down the road for all of us. So, but I mean, I have no dog in the fight whatsoever, besides just, I see certain things that, I don't know if we could be proactive to make a difference or not with that. That's all.
Good sized thunder out there. Yeah, let's talk about what we can do to, like you said, be proactive. But I think John Phillips set the table just the way Joe said, and we can get Catherine Bruns if we can't get Chris Nelson. See if we can get an expert there, because she's good too. All right, guys. It's 8:16. We got through our agenda. Max, you're going to work on the Hess. Stephen and I will work on a press release. Work on some energy matters. And
anybody can put together a pitch.
Yep.
Write some copy.
Actually, Stephen, exactly the point that you raised would be another story. So I don't know whether anybody will read what we have to say, but I do think we have solutions and insights to offer. And I'm talking about the waste to energy and how we reduce our waste stream. That would be a good topic, because always it is the case that there's a technical solution of some sort, and then there's two things that stand in the way: economics. But I think the bigger thing that stands in the way most of the time is the public. You can't get them to move. There's opposition of various sorts for various reasons. So if we can help with the public perception of these things, I think it would be a service to the community. Okay, 8:18, I'm going to declare the meeting closed. Is that okay?
I second it.
You were ready 15 minutes ago, weren't you? Okay, good
Have a
night.
good weekend. Have a great holiday weekend.
Yes,
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
thank you very much for sharing your time.